So I'm Aurora.
And I'm Pabi.
And yeah, like Monica said, we explored the driving question, how can we make the untold personal stories behind mass migration matter? And so, to start off, what is migration? Well, in the context of our module, migration is moving from a rural area to an urban area. And it happens all over the world. It's a completely natural aspect of life, and it's not just something that happens in China. But why do people move? Well, mostly, people move because of push and pull factors. The push factor is something that pushes you out of your hometown, and the pull factor is something that pulls you to the area that you're then moving. Usually, the pull factor would be an opposite of the push factor, meaning that if you're moving from your hometown because of lack of education, usually the place that you're moving to has really good education. A big factor of migration in China, though, is urbanization. China has rapidly urbanized over the past couple of years. Here, you see the Bund in 1990, which is only 30 years ago, and then you see it in 2019, now. And you can see that it's very much changed, and this has caused a lot of job opportunities to open up, which is due to the successful economy and is drawing a lot of people to Shanghai.
So, as Aurora said, migration is very common, and it's something that happens everywhere and pretty much anywhere in the world. And if I do say so myself, I'd say that migration is definitely inevitable. But what makes China stand out in terms of migration? In addition to its rapid economic growth, China has a whopping 1.4 billion people in it. And the population size alone definitely makes it stand out. China is home to the largest migration on the planet, known as the mass migration, which occurs annually during the Spring Festival. So, how can we, as a module, make migration matter? With so many statistics and numbers going around, it's pretty hard to comprehend and really understand the impacts that mass migration has on people as individuals. As Joseph Stalin once said, a single death is a tragedy, whereas a million deaths is a statistic. So, how else do we make it matter but to focus on one person's story out of the hundreds of millions of others? So we did this through illustrating the statistic by sharing the personal experiences of other people in China and their migration.
We gained personal experiences of people by having the opportunity to interview migrants in Shanghai and have them share their personal experiences with migration with us. We also had the amazing opportunity during our We Explore to go to a rural village in China where a lot of these migrants come from and see it firsthand. We also managed to see different types of tier cities and compare them to a first tier city such as Shanghai. We then showcased this work through our summative, which was an individual mixed media story to illustrate the experiences of migrants. So each student got to choose their own media that they would focus on, whether that be audio, video, photos, or writing, and then they had to add another media in there to really portray their story in the best way that they felt was best.
And in addition to the mixed media and the freedom of mixed media, students also had the opportunity to delve into migration in China with the topic of their own choice, as well as different lenses from economic to social. And as a collective, our stories have all been compiled together to form our modules book titled The Journey Home. And so what we learned, and from our many, many takeaways, I think it's safe to say that our module has definitely been able to understand that journalism is very far from easy. We see and read countless of articles every other day, I suppose, but really don't think or take a moment to think what it took to get to that stage. And I'd say that we have definitely gained a huge sense of respect for journalists and their creative process, as well as the importance of how you can successfully communicate a message to your intended audience.
Another thing that we took away was to take everything with a grain of salt. These articles that you're reading often just contain one perspective of the story. And what we found is that before we came to China, these articles that we were reading about mass migration were often portraying migrants as victims of life and discrimination and all sorts of things. But then many of the people that we actually met felt the complete opposite and were completely content with their life. In the end, we want to say a special thank you to Beyond the Bund, who provided us with amazing interviews, and to all the people we interviewed for taking the time out of their day to share their personal experiences with us. We also want to thank Morgan O'Hare and Hugh Ton for giving us our amazing We Explore.
And we also wanted to take this opportunity to thank Stephen Lin, who fed us the most delicious food I think I've ever had in my entire life, but also he welcomed us into his lovely home for our We Explore. We'd also like to thank all of our guest speakers throughout the term who took the time to teach us about interviewing, human geography in China, and so much more. Without them, the success of our module would not be possible.
And lastly, we're going to be showcasing our big story, Journey Home, in the booth in the back. So please come and check it out after the presentation. Thank you.
谢谢 to the Journey Home module. I have to ask, how good is my pronunciation? Because I've always been insecure about saying it since the beginning, and I finally have the courage, and now I get X's, so that's okay. Thank you. Yeah, a big thank you to the Journey Home module, which, if I may say, it is the best module, led by my man Dan over here and Matt in the back. And
bit
yeah,
of a biased opinion, but
yeah, but yeah, please check out the booth in the back later. I put a lot of work into creating the iBook in the end, and finally came through. And yeah, we're excited to share our stories with you. So yeah, thank you.